Hello, guys. Welcome back to the MMASucka podcast. As always, I'm Fraser Crone, and we've got plenty to talk about today. I want to touch on the Joshua versus Ngannou fight that went down on Friday night, and then, of course, UFC 299 with the blockbuster card that went down. What is last night? I'm recording this on Sunday. It'll be released on the Monday, but last night from Miami, Florida. Joshua Ngannou, I'm only going to touch on it briefly because, to be honest, it didn't last too long. Domination from start to finish from Anthony Joshua, and that's exactly what Tyson Fury should have done when the two guys faced off last time out. Ngannou didn't have any answers for the straight shots of Anthony Joshua. They were just too crisp, too clean, too quick, and too powerful. Um, the first knockdown was a bit of a flash knockdown. The second knockdown, you could see that it hurt Ngannou, and then that third knockdown was just a straight down the pipe, like Anthony Joshua was hitting a power bag or a punching machine, those kind of things that you see in arcades. It was just a clinical professional performance from Anthony Joshua, and he's got two massive paydays in the space of 3 months. December 23rd against against Otto Wallin, sorry, and then this time against Francis Ngannou. What's next for AJ? For me, it's the winner of Tyson Usyk. That Usyk trilogy, although he's lost the first two, he's a completely different fighter to the fighter that he was. To the fighter that fought Alexander Usyk the first two times, and of course we all want that Tyson Fury fight for Anthony Joshua. Look, Anthony Joshua, since linking up with Ben Davison, is a real problem, and it's nice to see, really, because you know we want to see that from Anthony Joshua. We want to see him back to his sort of brutal best, as it were, because he is such a good he's a good boxer. And Ben Davison's obviously, he's working with Anthony Joshua's strengths, which are being the bigger guy in there and power punching, and it's working to great effect for Anthony Joshua. What he showed on Friday night in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia were that there are levels to this game, and that is exactly, and that takes me nicely into UFC 299 with Sean O'Malley's big win in the main event. I said on the podcast last week that I maybe was sort of leaning towards Chito Vera getting it done, but it was just a different class from Sean O'Malley. He looked like he was in a completely. It looked like for the first 3 rounds at least, Sean O'Malley was too slick, he was too quick, and he was spiteful with his shots. That knee in the second round, how Chito stayed on his feet. But with the greatest of respect to Chito, that's the best thing he did in the fight was eat that knee and carry on walking forwards. He looks, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, get in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong, but it appeared to me like Chito froze in the moment. The moment got too big for him, and he couldn't close the distance. He looked tentative throughout. He was scared. He looked, weary of O'Malley's power. And there's a potential that was the case. In that fourth round, he had arguably his best round of the fight. Well, maybe the fifth, but we'll go on to talk about that in a second. But the rounds 1, 2, and 3, Vera couldn't close the distance, and it was massively due to O'Malley's footwork. O'Malley's footwork was on point. DC commented on it on the broadcast, and it's something that I also put in the podcast last week about the feints of O'Malley get his opponents freezing up, and it doesn't have to be a whole sort of arm feint or a lower and he doesn't have to be throwing shots or feinting shots to actually get his opponents thinking. It's his eyes. His eyes are really good when he goes to when he looks at he'll look down at the leg, or we'll see him looking to the side quite often, looking to feint to maybe spin, and he just had Chito froze in front of him. Chito was a punching bag. I'll flash up a picture now of what Chito Vera looked like before and after the fight, because it was pretty brutal, to be honest. It was pretty brutal. And that's down to just how precise and how good Sean O'Malley was. He was mixing it up head and body. Chito couldn't close the distance, and when he did close the distance, he paid for it with that with those body shots as well. Chito didn't look to counter; he just looked to sort of shell up, and maybe the tactic was to shell up and look to fatigue the champion. Didn't work. Sean O'Malley naturally looked tired in the the fourth and fifth rounds, as do 90% of fighters. Fighter that I think that he should face next and probably will face next doesn't get tired in the fourth and fifth round, so that'll be interesting. But Vera did find some success when he met O'Malley in the middle, exchanged with him, but he didn't do it often enough, and obviously he's paid the price. O'Malley didn't allow him to, I think O'Malley recognized that Chito was having success in that sort of middle ground when Chito was able to meet O'Malley in the middle and exchange with him. So what did O'Malley do? Just use that elite footwork and get out of the way. For me, it was frustrating because what got Chito this opportunity was essentially the win over Sean O'Malley when they fought, I think it was back in 2020. How did he win that fight? He slammed leg kicks. Now I'm just going to pull up the stats, and it was arguably due to the leg injury. Now Marlon Vera landed 34 leg kicks to Sean O'Malley in last night's fight. None of them hurt O'Malley, none of them wobbled O'Malley, none of them had O'Malley really second guessing anything that he was doing. And that's because he's so proficient these days at actually switching stances. Because these days he's much better at checking the lower leg kick and dealing with the lower leg kick, but he's also so efficient at switching stances. When Chito did kick his lead leg, he would just switch to southpaw or, switch to orthodox. And it really, being so one-dimensional, not having that sort of wrestling threat of, someone like an Aljamain Sterling or a Merab Dvalishvili really, really hindered Marlon Vera in this one. Sean O'Malley landed 232 total strikes. Marlon Vera landed 89, and the majority of those 89 weren't shots that were really going to trouble Sean O'Malley. He landed 26 shots and 21 shots in the final two rounds. But Sean O'Malley in that second round was just having fun. He landed 51 of 83 strikes. Marlon Vera landed 16. And I said on the podcast last week, and sort of the prediction that I made last week was that Marlon Vera, yes, he's a slow starter, but he cannot afford to. He needs to take at least one of the first 3 rounds off Sean O'Malley and then look to maybe wear on him in those final 2 rounds. And he didn't, and he massively paid the price for it. O'Malley showed that Marlon Vera at this moment in time and probably going forward isn't on his level. And he showed why he's the champion and why Marlon Vera is ranked number 5 in the world going into that fight. He called out Ilia Topuria. I don't have any interest in that fight really, because Topuria has got defenses to be made at featherweight, and O'Malley's got defenses to be made at bantamweight. O'Malley's next fight should and probably will be Merab. Merab weighed in as a backup fighter. That's a fascinating matchup. We'll talk more about it if and when it's announced. But that is a fascinating fight because the styles just match and the styles clash so well, as it were. But a really, really solid, just dominant performance by Sean O'Malley. And he showed why he's one of the best in the world. He's up there with some of the best strikers in the world at the moment. And he deserves the hype. I think going into this fight, I was slightly unsure on the hype of Sean O'Malley. After this fight, I've got no doubt that Sean O'Malley could potentially be a megastar. In the co-main event, we had Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. This got fight of the night, and rightfully so. So Sean O'Malley got performance of the night for that victory over Marlon Vera over 5 rounds. But Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis, fight of the night. Dustin Poirier gets the second round TKO victory over the God of War, and made a bit of a statement with the win. To be honest, that first round was up there with the toughest of Dustin's career, in my opinion. He was hurt in that round. I feel he was taken down twice. He was dominated on the floor when he was down there. Benoit Saint-Denis was locking in a rear naked choke. He was landing shots when they were on the feet. He closed the distance really quickly, and he knows no other way to fight Benoit Saint-Denis. Of just walk forward and look to wade on his opponents, land on his opponents, and outgut his opponents. And I think what he did really well in that first round is he showed Dustin Poirier no respect, which was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? In hindsight, it was a bad thing. It was arguably a good thing going into it because he did really well. He won the first round without a doubt. Dustin did have three guillotine attempts. Mike Brown told him to stop going for the guillotine because it's not working. He's ending up on his back, which of course is really good advice. And then we had the second round where he sort of started quite in a similar vein, but Benoit Saint Denis got to be a little bit more sensible going into maybe future fights, because he just, at the end of the day, the not showing Dustin Poirier respect worked in the first round without a doubt. But after that first round, when he's got Dustin really worried about the takedown, maybe take a step back, maybe fight at range a little bit more, because all of Benoit Saint Denis' fights are all action fights. If we just look down his record, he's got 2 fight of the nights already, 2 performance of the nights, and then he's got multiple other finishes. He doesn't know any other style than to walk forward, which is both good and bad. It's it can be a detriment to him, which we saw in this fight, because Dustin Poirier, his corner said, "Look, you're better than him on the feet. You're better than him striking," and that proved that showed. That showed in a massive way in that second round, and he knocked Benoit Saint Denis out in the second round. He rode the storm. He rode the wave, as it were. He battled through the storm, and he did really well, Dustin Poirier. Benoit Saint Denis is a guy that no one's putting their hand up to fight. Dustin Poirier ranked number 3, Benoit Saint Denis ranked number 12. Dustin Poirier doesn't go up in the rankings with this win, but he had a big opportunity to drop in the rankings had he lost. And credit to him for taking the fight. What's next? I've seen Ali Abdelaziz call for Islam Makhachev to defend his title against Dustin Poirier. I've got very little interest in that, if I'm honest. Islam Makhachev at the moment, there's 2 people, maybe 3 people that I want to see him against: Justin Gaethje, and then Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan, depending on who wins that. They're the only fights that I really want to see Islam Makhachev have. With that being said, it's difficult for Dustin Poirier, because maybe he fights the loser of Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira. Logically, if he's looking down, Mateus Gamrot got a big win over Rafael dos Anjos on this card, but they're teammates, so I doubt that them 2 would fight each other. For Benoit Saint Denis, there's fun fights out there. Without a doubt, there's fun fights out there. We've got Dan Hooker, would be an amazing fight. Jalen Turner's obviously just been booked with Renato Moicano for UFC 300. I mean, that would be a good fight if Jalen Turner gets through Renato Moicano, or the Moicano fight for Benoit Saint Denis. There's a lot of options for Saint Denis. I don't think his stock has dropped too much in this one, despite losing the fight, because he did so well in that first round. But that fight was never going 15 minutes. No, sorry, 25 minutes. Well, it was never going 15 minutes, let alone 25 minutes. And it was just a really good, mature, experienced performance from Dustin Poirier. We also saw a really good performance from the debuting Michael Venom Page, who outpointed Kevin Holland over 3 rounds to get a 29-28 unanimous decision victory on all scorecards. He turned Kevin Holland into a wrestler. It's not often that we see Kevin Holland offensively wrestling. We have to see him defensively wrestle a lot because of his so-called flaws in that area. We don't see him offensively wrestle a lot at all. But after that first round, he had to offensively wrestle. And the reason for that is that he just couldn't deal with the speed of Michael Venom Page. He even said that to his corner after the first round. MVP, as we know, has got that weird karate, point fighting style where he's side on. He doesn't really throw an awful lot of shots. He dives in with a couple of explosive shots. He doesn't throw an awful lot of I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't think, in my opinion, he doesn't throw a lot of feints to land. He just throws a lot of feints to really get the reads. And I think he did really well from the Undertaker style walkout. He just looked like he was having fun. He was dancing to the octagon, and he gets it. Michael Venom Page gets it. He gets that he's I think he's 37 years old now, 36 years old. Um, he gets that he hasn't got a long career in the UFC really, but he's utilizing everything that he does already. He's really good in fight week. He seems very appreciative. The next fight for Michael Venom Page is, and really, really should be, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He'll be ranked after this, beating Kevin Holland, the 13th ranked guy. I imagine he goes in around 12 or 13. I really want to see a fight between him and Leon Edwards. It's too soon for that at the moment. I even more want to see a fight between him and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Just that karate, that karate versus karate sort of style. I just think they would be, a really good fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson obviously coming, he beat Kevin Holland himself, and he's coming off the loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, who essentially, was striking and wrestling with him. MVP versus Kevin Holland will just, MVP versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson will just be a karate fight with the odd, potential takedown, potential clinch situation mixed in there. I thought he was really good. I thought he smothered his work a little bit, but yeah, that's because Kevin Holland was kind of standing his ground a little bit more than we maybe expected him to. But it was a pretty solid performance. It was probably the weakest fight on the main card for me, but it was still a really good performance. A fight that wasn't weak at all, that really had me on the edge of my seat for the full, well, for almost the full 15 minutes, was Jack Della Maddalena and Gilbert Burns. What a scrap that was. JDM, Jack Della Maddalena, comes away with the TKO victory at 3:43 of round 3. If you're a Gilbert Burns fan, if you're Gilbert Burns himself, you are gutted with this, because the scorecards have been released now, and he was winning the fight. He was on his way to at least a 2-1, and in that final round, he was dominating the round in the grappling game, in the grappling realm. Sorry. Interesting to see actually that he didn't actually land a single strike in that final round, but he was just mauling JDM on the floor. 2 minutes 13 control time. The first round was a pretty close round. I actually scored it for JDM, not Gilbert Burns, but um the judges had it for Burns. I think the more damaging shots were just done on the side of Jack Della Maddalena ever so slightly. That second round was really close. Again, though, he's taken down. He's pretty largely controlled Jack Della Maddalena for periods of the round. But it was and Rogan commented on it on the broadcast. It was the volume, the slick straight punches of Jack Della Maddalena, the working it high, working it low to the body and whatnot, that was winning Jack Della Maddalena the exchanges, whereas Gilbert Burns was just winging the odd one or two punches. Now, if that works, it looks great, but when it doesn't work, it looks amateurish, for want of a better phrase. And for Gilbert, it wasn't really working. He was trying to wing in those punches and land the takedowns, which was working. But JDM is a pretty decent brown belt on the ground, and he obviously wasn't able to really have JDM biting too much on the big winging shots enough to completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Completely go away from, completely ignore his takedown defense. He wasn't biting on those big shots. The finish game, phenomenal counter from JDM, countering Gilbert Burns on the ground, managing to get back to his feet. And as soon as Gilbert shot him for that sort of, that chain takedown, JDM knew it was coming. Humongous knee up the middle. We've seen two huge knees from JDM and from Sean O'Malley in the main event. JDM landed that massive knee, and it essentially knocked Gilbert Burns out on his feet. A couple of follow-up shots were needed, but realistically, if he hadn't have followed up, Gilbert wasn't getting back to his feet anyway. Puts himself really nicely in the rankings now at welterweight. Gilbert Burns was ranked number 4. Jack Della Maddalena was ranked number 11. I think he jumped up a good few spots. What I'd like to see is Jack Della Maddalena versus Ian Gary. I think that'd be a really good fight, but I imagine Ian Gary will get the Colby Covington fight that he called for. Jack Della Maddalena did call out Shavkat Rakhmonov, which is no one's doing that. So it's phenomenal work from him on the mic. But he's put himself in the top five without a doubt. In my opinion, he's better than Colby Covington now. Gilbert Burns. Where does Gilbert go from here? I'm not really sure. It's the first time in his long career that he's lost two straight. But at the end of the day, the division's moving on, and Gilbert's not really moving with the division, in my opinion. You've got the likes of Shavkat Rakhmonov. You've got Bilal Muhammad, who's still relatively, he's relatively young. You've got Jack Della Maddalena. You've got Hamzat Chimaev. You've got Ian Gary. All these guys in the welterweight division, you know, are guys that, Sean Brady as well, are guys that are sort of the new breed at welterweight, and Gilbert Burns is ever so slightly letting the division pass him by. The new guard beats the old guard in this one. The old experienced guard did get his hand raised for the first time in a long time as Petr Yan defeated Song Yadong. I did see a crazy stat on the UFC broadcast that he had won 4 out of his last 5 fights, which is interesting because he's actually lost 4 out of his last 5 fights, but it is what it is. Bounced back from that, that dominant win at the hands of Merab Dvalishvili. Let's not forget, I was commenting on it last week. Dvalishvili shot for 49 takedowns in that one. Song Yadong shot for 8. And he had relative success in the wrestling game. He was getting Petr Yan to bite on a lot of his feints. And I think Petr Yan would benefit from a lot of sparring, or a good round or some hard sparring before making the walk out to the octagon, because he looked flat in there in that first round. He looked like he'd had time away from the octagon. That Merab Dvalishvili fight was back in, it's almost done a whole year, March the 11th, 2023. And obviously now March the 9th, 2024, he steps back in there against Song Yadong. He did look flat. He looked a little bit slow, and he looked like he was a little bit tentative. Petr Yan's always had the style of covering up and then looking to counter a little bit, and that wasn't really working for him in the first round. But that second round was much better for him. I think he stung Yadong. I think he stung Yadong with a number of shots, to be honest. But the output from both guys was really good. That uppercut for Yan was beginning to land closer to the end of the fight. He landed some really good takedowns of his own. And I think Yan really got the bit between his teeth in that second round and realized that Song Yadong couldn't hurt, despite how heavy Song Yadong's hands are, he couldn't hurt Petr Yan. And that's when Petr Yan really started opening up. He was timing leg kicks much better in that in the sorry, his timing body shots much better in the second and third round. That first round, whenever he shot a leg kick, Song Yadong would catch a leg kick and go himself. He was defending takedowns much better in the second and third round as well, which obviously paid dividends. Song Yadong shot for a total of 6 takedowns over the last 2 rounds and wasn't able to land any. Song Yadong will be a world champion, in my opinion. He's still, what, 27, 28, maybe? Yeah, he's 27 years old, so he'll still be a world champion. Can Petr Yan be a world champion again? I'm not so sure, but I think a fight with him and Marlon Vera now makes a lot of sense. He's not going to face a champion next, no chance. He's not going to face Merab next. Aljamain Sterling's obviously going up to featherweight. Corey Sandhagen, there's a potential that they rematch, but Sandhagen seems to be on the brink of a title shot himself. So what better way, number 5 Marlon Vera versus number 4 Petr Yan and a fight night headliner across 5 rounds? I think that makes a lot of sense. Both men, Petr Yan's still looking to bounce back. Marlon Vera will obviously be looking to bounce back from the title fight loss. But there's a reason that got. But to be honest, that didn't get fight of the night. I thought that was a really good fight. It is what it is. I thought, like I said, I thought it was a really good fight. Now I'm going to go on just to talk about some of the highlights from the prelims, because I thought the card from top to bottom was really good. Writing some notes down for myself to remember to discuss later on. I think one of the biggest highlights was Curtis Blades. Jason Almeida was came out like many of us expected him to do and looked to wrestle Curtis Blades, and he did with great effect. In that first round, he landed 9 of 12 takedowns. Didn't land a single strike in that significant strike, sorry, in that first round. He landed 8 total strikes. It's a very, very flat, boring first round. We thought, is Jason Almeida going to do this again? He did that against Derek Lewis in the main event. He did it for 5 rounds. Is he going to do it again? And it looked like it was going that way again. The beginning of the second round, he shot in, and it was a bit more of an exchange between the two men, and then Curtis Blades just landed some of the most brutal hammer fists you're ever going to see, and essentially knocked Jason Almeida out. I think one of them must have caught him pretty badly, and he wasn't able to sort of recover his senses. Curtis Blades goes on to he bounces back from the loss to Sergey Pavlovich last time out. He had a really tough first round, but he gets the win. He takes the hype of Jason Almeida, and Almeida will be frustrated that that's the way that he's lost that fight. He won on the Contender Series back in 2021. He's been on a 6-fight winning streak since then, two main events. He'll be frustrated that that's the way that he's lost his winning streak, in my opinion. But he'll be back, and I think he'll be a world champion. He's still pretty young, especially for a heavyweight. He's what, 32? He's 30. Well, he's 32. He'll be 33 this year. So, at the end of the day, he's still young for a heavyweight. But for me, Curtis Blades, correct call out in my opinion. Tom Aspinall, really, really clever call out, because them two guys have got unfinished business. That fight lasted 15, 16 seconds. Tom blew his knee out. It's disappointing. Curtis got the win, but I think Curtis himself will admit that that was a little bit, flat for him. Macy Barber put on a good performance against Caitlin Kreminera, Caitlin Chikagian, Caitlin, blonde fighter, whatever you want to call her. Macy Barber, it probably takes Caitlin's ranking now. They probably switch places in the rankings, to be honest. Macy Barber goes to number 4. Caitlin Kreminera drops to number 6. Jessica Andrade stays at 5. It was a fun fight. Macy Barber does make fights ugly, makes them, Macy Barber, I don't quite know what's happened with Barber, because she used to be, quite a really, good kickboxer. You look at her first 3 fights, all finished by TKO. She's now finished 1 in her last 6 wins. That was against Amanda Hebas last time out. Caitlin Chikagian is a tough girl to finish, but it was, it's a classic Macy Barber performance. Rafael dos Anjos, showed the hole in his game that we all know that he has, his takedown defense. You look at his last few fights, he was taken down 11 times against Mateus Gamrot last time out, 8 times against Vicente Luque, 6 times against Michael Chiesa, 3 times against Leon Edwards. Kamaru Usman took him down 12 times. Covington took him down 7 times. He's got a hole in his game despite being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And at 37, I don't think we appreciate Rafael dos Anjos for the impact that he's had on the sport. But he was comprehensively, in my opinion, beaten in that first round. He did score the knockdown in the first, but aside from that, Mateus Gamrot's really looking really good. He did lose to Beneil Dariush, but he bounced back. Big win against Jalen Turner. That knockout sort of against Fiziev. From the knee injury, and then against RDA last night, he bounces back well. Again, in a stacked lightweight division, it's tough for Gamrot, but he looked good. Kyler Phillips also looked good. I think he'll be ranked. He'll be ranked on Monday. I don't think he's ranked now. Let me just double check. No, he's not ranked. He'll be ranked on Monday without a doubt. He beat the shit out of Pedro Munoz, for want of a better phrase. Pedro had nothing for him. 30-27 on all scorecards. He's really good. He's really quick. He's really powerful, and it'll be, he's going to be a real problem at 135. I mean, Iron Cutelaba lost again because he's not a very good fighter. Is what it is. Michel Pereira just put on a strange performance. A minute-long fight. He's just fun, Michel Pereira. I'm going to butcher the name again. I butchered it last time. I watched the fight. I've listened to them talk about this guy, and I'm going to butcher it again. But Robelius Despanige, I don't know, the big Cuban. He got an 18-second knockout over Parisian. Awful from Parisian. I don't know what he was doing. He came out, is the big boy, as his nickname is. Came out swinging for him. He threw a kick, missed, and then he chased him down with his chin up in the air, trying to land shots. And after he got clipped once, he didn't think it was a good idea to back up and look to sort of regain his senses. And he got clipped again and dropped and finished. I mean, Despinish can do this to that level of fighter without a doubt, and will do that to that level of fighter without a doubt, because if the fights that he's gonna have are gonna be of that sort of intelligence, for want of a better phrase, these things are gonna happen. Just gonna quickly look at the sort of ranking of the heavyweights on for who he could face next. He's currently ranked number 40 on Tapology as the 40th best heavyweight in the world. You can't take too much out of them because you've got Vadim Nemkov ranked number 36, which he's far better than that. If you're going to push him, Blag or Ivanov, if you're going to go down that route, you could maybe go, Augusto Sakai isn't in the UFC anymore. I mean, Martin Bidet maybe. Waldo Cortez Acosta. Shamil Gassiev would be a good fight. They're not going to do that, of course, but there's options for him. He'll probably be handed a number of easy fights just to try and sort of hype him up a little bit more. But it is what it is. We've got a potential contender at heavyweight one day. Who knows? John Wood, sorry, beat Marina Moroz by split decision in what is her last MMA fight. She's a pioneer of UK women's mixed martial arts, UK mixed martial arts as a whole. I believe she's the only Scottish female fighter, sorry, in the UFC and has ever been in the UFC. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Casey O'Neill sort of is somewhere Scottish down the line, but JoJo is the OG, as it were. And it was just a really fun performance. She won the fight essentially with a spinning back fist in the dying seconds of the last round, just how she would have wanted to go out. And she opened up what was a really good card. I'd give UFC 299 a sort of eight or 9 out of 10. It was almost a perfect card. I think what would have made it the perfect card is if Sean O'Malley had got a big finish in the main event, and if maybe MVP or Petr Yan had got a finish. But it is what it is. Just wanted to touch on 2 quick things. Just sticking with the UFC 300. The bout lineup has come out, and they've got Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage on the main card, above the likes of Charles Oliveira, above multiple former champions. I don't know what that is about. I get that they're trying to push. I get that they're trying to push Bo Nickel, but at the end of the day, the guy doesn't even, in my opinion, deserve to be on the 300 card, Bo Nickel or Cody Brundage. But they're trying to push the guy. This should be a 10 out of 10 main card, and at the moment, for me, it's nowhere close. It's nowhere close. It's a shame because you've got people on the prelims that deserve to be on that main card, like I said, and Bo Nickel and Cody Brundage are kind of using up one of those spots. It is what it is. But it is what it is, like I say. And I just want to touch on 2 females from the UK MMA scene. Lexi Rook lost out in out in Canada for Pallas Athena. I think she was TKO'd in the 3rd round, which is disappointing. But she'll be back. And Sammy Jo Luxton is now 2-0 in mixed martial arts. She's beat up 2 girls that look like they're fresh out of a boxer size class. you know, you can only beat what's in front of you, and fair play to Sammy. You know, she looked really good. If I was to sort of, you know, invest stock in a fighter now, for the future, it would be her. But the level of competition that she's faced, we have to remember that like a normal, she's not like a normal sort of 1-0 fighter. She's got I think over 50 amateur Muay Thai fights. She's can invest heavily in making this a full-time career where these other girls can't. So you need to start putting her in there with girls that are 4, 5, 6, 7-0 and really testing her, because she is, I think, technically still signed with the PFL. She fought for FCC last night, but we need to start giving her a proper test. The girl that she fought last night had, you know, she was she was she'd been grappling, but she looked like she was fresh off the sofa. She looked like she'd, you know, enjoyed a boxercise class now and again, and that she moral of the story, she had no right being in there with Sammy Joe Luxton, because Sammy Joe Luxton is very, very good. Like I said, I want to see Sammy. She's 2-0 now. I want to see her against girls that are, you know, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, or girls that have got, a pretty decent record, 5-5, 5-3. I want to see her in there with girls that are not scared to take a punch, because both of the girls she's fought so far have been scared to take a punch. The girl that she fought last night was essentially a BJJ competitor that had never thrown a strike in her life. That's what it looked like to me. But anyway, UFC 299, really, really good card. Like I said, 8 or a 9 out of 10 for me. Don't forget to use the code SUCKA, SUCK, at manscaped.com for 20% off and worldwide shipping. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is elite. So yeah, keep it locked to MMA Sucker this week, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.